It's happening, guys. The writing's been on the wall for the longest time, but Bloodhunt is going to close its doors and stop development after the release of their next update. So we're going to have to pour one out for our dead homies today. I've got my Bloodhunt snapback on. Let's get some Fs in the chat and discuss the downfall of Bloodhunt and live service games. Bloodhunt deciding to stop development is hardly unexpected if we were being honest with ourselves. The player base is unsustainably small and has been ever since the rocky launch of the game steered away the crucial casual audience. Bloodhunt also arrived at the party too late. It turned up with a broken leg and only a handful of beers on offer. It's a game in which the phrase "so much potential but" was lamented by its devoted fans since the launch of the alphas and betas. And it's true, Bloodhunt is quite a unique experience, and anyone who's played it for a bit or gotten really into it could probably agree that there really isn't anything else on the market, especially in the BR space, which delivers such high-paced vertical combat. So why has it ultimately been unsuccessful in captivating a bigger player base? Bloodhunt launched into a market dominated by the heavy hitters, Apex, Fortnite, PUBG, and Warzone. These already established titles had their healthy and loyal player bases. To crowbar some of these players out of their comfort zone to try a new Battle Royale game made by a company they've never heard of is no easy feat. But with a solid visual marketing campaign and the free-to-play no barrier of entry, a lot of people did give the game a look, even the two-time back-to-back himself.
Dude, I don't know, man.
But what they got was a buggy, laggy, unoptimized mess, which had incredibly bad controller support. And this was their first impression of the game, and I think these days first impressions are even more important than they've probably ever been. With everyone's time being the most valuable resource, why should they spend it playing a game which had so many issues? The answer is they shouldn't, and ultimately they didn't. You get one chance at a first impression. Once people decide your game is trash, it will always be trash to them. It doesn't matter if you fix it down the line. Now, don't get me wrong, most games these days are releasing in similar states, especially on PC, but when no money has changed hands to try the game and decide it's bad, the company aren't making any return on their investment and have even less chance of being allocated the resources to fix the game down the line. The overlords will just pull the plug on the whole thing if it doesn't take off immediately. All those years of hard work by artists, coders, designers just completely evaporated. A waste. And this is exactly what's happened with Bloodhunt. The build up to launch, we had so much hype going for the game. Developer live streams on the reg on Twitch in that awesome looking themed studio they had. We had an engaged, active Twitter page with newcomers constantly coming through, and there was a really nice community forming. But after the below acceptable state the game was in at launch, the fans turned on Sharkmob like a regular mob, with pitchforks and everything. They felt betrayed by the game. It promised so much and delivered on almost none of it. There was no PS5 beta tests leading up to launch, so the console crowd's first chance at playing it was when it was in the worst state it was ever in. The game-breaking bullet reg bug, which evolved into the ghost ammo bug, were present in the game from launch, and the good grace that Sharkmob had built with the fans had started to wilt. The game just wasn't ready for launch, it's as simple as that. It needed more time in the oven. It needed more features than it had to offer too, some of which were the most basic things that you would find in other games in the genre. There was no controller remapping, no proper aim assist, no crossplay parties, no gun range to test weapons, etc. These are the things that the modern player expects as like bare minimum requirements. This ruined the chance of building that loyal casual console crowd from day one, which was essential for the game's health. The fact that it was only releasing on PS5 for console too was a terrible idea in my opinion. At that time, PS5s were still extremely hard to get hold of and offensively expensive too. And I do feel like this kind of game is more suited to the Xbox crowd as well. They're usually more willing to play games which have some rough edges. Sony console exclusives are usually much more polished experiences, and so losing a huge percentage of those players early was a massive net negative for the game. I heard from the devs that the biggest complaint they were getting was that the game was too hard. The PC players were too dominant and they would play a couple of games, get shit on and then uninstall. But of course they did that. The controller gameplay was terrible. I just spat. The game was a nightmare to control. There was nowhere in the game to test weapons and powers out to find something that they liked, or even attempt to tune their controller settings so they felt remotely playable. Sharkmob did manage to patch and fix almost everything I've mentioned above, but it was just too little, too late. The amount of work it takes to have new content pouring into a game with regular updates on the scale of a AAA Battle Royale title, I think was just underestimated by Sharkmob. People are greedy little shits these days. They don't just want seasons of updates, they want mid-season updates, a regular rotation of store items to buy, new weapons, new metas every other day. It takes a remarkable amount of developers' hands on deck to make all that happen regularly and to keep the game as bug-free as possible. And Bloodhunt sadly just couldn't keep up. It was getting left in the dust. It deserved better, and I can't help but wonder what the fate of the game would have been had it launched maybe a year or two later. But when publishers have promises to fulfill with investors on a strict timescale, things get rushed out the door before they're ready for sunlight. And in this case, they're vampires, so they burnt. So Bloodhunt has joined the ever-growing list of abandoned live service games this year, and it begs the question, are we really at the end days for the live service model? Or is this still a viable strategy, but only if the games that come out with this business model are complete, polished experiences? I mean, just look how well GTA Online has done. That game was making Rockstar $5 million per day when it was in its prime. Sure, they dragged it out for all these years, and I'm sure GTA 6 is going to have a similar online mode, and I'm sure that will be a ginormous success too. Genshin Impact, another example of a booming live service. I know both those games aren't battle royales, but it's more to highlight that with a functioning and engaging base game and the resources to deliver regular content on scale, the live service can still work. But after all the fatigue of these predatory free-to-play games, would you guys prefer to go back to the days of like putting money down before you play? To know you're getting a feature-complete experience off rip? Let me know in the comments, guys. I'm genuinely curious about what you think about the unceremonious death of all these live service games this year. I'm personally really sad that we have to say goodbye to Bloodhunt after this next patch. I really hope the studio aren't too upset by this, and I hope they've learned everything they needed to for their next projects. There are some obviously incredibly talented people behind the game. They achieved something great with Bloodhunt. Though it wasn't a breakout success, it is a fantastic achievement for a team who were always kind of relatively small. They should be proud. Sharkmob do also have some secret games in the works, and they have been for a while, none of which have been publicly named, so it will just be interesting to see where they go from here. I wish them the honest best, but I just ask, please just make sure that the next game you release is in a better state at launch. That's all I ask. I hope you enjoyed today's video, guys. I think this is going to be my last Bloodhunt video. I might make one last one after the new update drops just to send the game off nicely. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about Bloodhunt closing the doors. Hit the like button for me if you liked the video, dislike it if you didn't, subscribe if you want to see more from me, and I'll see ya when I'm looking at ya. Thank you. I wonder what my next multiplayer game is going to be.